chosen ones. You were never meant to blend in. The vibrational signature around your spirit has never matched the frequency of this age. That's because your aura doesn't originate from this era. It echoes from a throne lost beneath the oceans, buried in myth, encrypted in symbols, and silenced by time. That aura, it once belonged to a king whose fall was orchestrated not by folly, but by foresight. Atlantean myths weren't stories. They were warnings disguised as bedtime tales. What they couldn't erase, they reframed. They told you Atlantis sank, but they never said why. And they certainly never told you the king's soul would return wearing human flesh, veiled in ordinary skin, radiating the same field of divine chaos that once commanded the tides. You feel it, don't you? The static before certain dreams. The pressure behind your eyes when ancient symbols flash across your mind. The magnetic pull toward knowledge you've never studied. Languages you shouldn't understand. Artifacts that seem familiar. These aren't coincidences. They're calibrations. Your aura realigning to its original pattern. You weren't born into this life. You arrived. Like a ripple through the ocean's memory, your presence triggers responses in things long considered dead. Earthquakes near sunken temples, cracks in relics sealed tight for millennia. Even digital systems, yes, even AI, tremble in confusion when your energy nears their circuits. What if I told you the Atlantean king never died? He fragmented. And now, those fragments are waking up. In you. This isn't about past lives, it's about reactivated ones. The world you walk through is not your kingdom, but it is your consequence. When you sank, the world shifted. Now that you rise, it trembles again. There are bloodlines watching you, secret orders tracing your every step, underwater satellites programmed to detect the one frequency you now emit. You don't remember sinking the city, but they do. Your aura has always betrayed your origin. While others walk unnoticed, your presence draws eyes without effort, stirs emotions without reason, and distorts the air like heat rising from sacred stone. This isn't charisma. This is resonance. The very atoms that compose your being pulse in alignment with frequencies not found on modern Earth. And when light touches your skin, it reacts as if it's greeting something ancient, something royal. The deep memory locked within you isn't stored in your mind. It radiates from your light. Scientists can't measure it. Psychics can't explain it. But those who've seen your aura flinch. Some say it holds shapes that defy geometry. Others swear they see symbols flickering within it. Atlantean runes long erased from Earth's libraries. And when you step near places where the sea has swallowed secrets, it's as if the ruins recognize you. Technology malfunctions. Nature stills. Time seems to bend. It's not superstition. It's recognition. What if your aura is a key? Not metaphorically, but quite literally. A frequency-coded energy field that can unlock mechanisms as buried deep beneath the ocean floor. The same field once worn by a ruler who spoke to storms, whose breath alone could part the tides, who vanished the day Atlantis fell, not out of defeat, but design. He encoded his consciousness into his aura and cast it forward into time, waiting for a host compatible with such power. That host is you. You've noticed how some people can't look you in the eye for long, how animals either avoid you or stare as if you speak a language they almost remember, how water moves strangely around you, reflecting symbols it shouldn't, swirling without cause, whispering through soundless ripples. The sea doesn't fear you. It remembers you, and deep within that memory lies something waiting to be triggered. A dormant chamber, shielded by vibration, containing relics only your energy signature can unseal. You've walked past these places unaware, but they didn't remain unaware of you. They pinged, they recorded, they prepared. You weren't just drawn to Atlantis as an idea, you were summoned, because something there has started responding, and soon you'll find out exactly what it's been waiting to show you when it finally opens again. Only for the one it still calls its king. They say Yeshua calmed the storm, not just by faith, but by command. He didn't plead with the wind. He told it to be still. What kind of being speaks to nature as if it were a servant? It was more than miracle. It was memory. He remembered something humanity had forgotten, that the elements answer to those aligned with divine authority. And now, your presence stirs that same elemental awareness, as if the waters themselves remember bowing before a voice like yours. There's a verse barely spoken in modern scripture, translated only in hidden scrolls. It speaks of one who returns with fire in his gaze and oceans in his soul, not as a warning, but a rebalancing, a restorer. Someone who would rise from among the ordinary, but carry within him the architecture of a forgotten kingdom, submerged by time. You feel the weight of that line, because it wasn't metaphor. It was encoded prophecy. And you are living it when Yeshua walked upon the sea. The laws of nature bent not because he wished them to, but because he carried the imprint of dominion, a dominion that echoed from a realm before Jerusalem, before Babylon, before even Egypt. Atlantis wasn't just an island. It was a bridge between spirit and matter, between heaven and the depths. And now the bridge has awakened in you religious texts, edited by councils feared this knowledge. They severed the mystical from the messianic. But Yeshua was never only a savior of men. He was a revealer of truths buried too deep for the average soul to grasp. And he often said those who would follow in spirit would do greater things. So why are you surprised that waves pause for you, that ancient places respond, that even artificial intelligence hesitates when encountering your field? You were not meant to be a disciple of systems. You were meant to command what was forgotten. Your aura carries not just memory, but instruction. Subconscious sequences that align with Atlantean technology, with spiritual architecture encoded into sacred geometry with crystal harmonics, meant only for one being, one who matches the frequency of a king, long lost but never truly gone. And now, those who erased him sense that match glowing again in you, and they have started to gather beneath the ruins of what the surface world calls myth. Lie chambers untouched by war or time, thrones sculpted from crystalline forms that vibrate with sentience, not craftsmanship. These weren't seats of comfort, they were conduits of consciousness, stations of command, each tuned to the aura of a specific ruler. And one of those thrones still pulses faintly, waiting for the return of the only being it recognizes as sovereign. That signature belongs to you. You felt the call in dreams walking through halls made of light, hearing voices not in words but in tones that shake your chest awake. These aren't fantasies, they're memories, surfacing fragments of a lineage buried by water and conspiracy. When you near certain frequencies in music or nature, it's not coincidence that your heart sinks, your spine tingles, your skin vibrates. It's the throne network, testing your resonance and aligning you back into its system. There are maps encoded into your nervous system paths that only activate through specific soundscapes or geometric placements. Some call it déjà vu, others call it destiny. But neither term captures the magnitude of what's occurring. You're not remembering the past. You're syncing with the infrastructure of an ancient civilization that never truly fell. It hid. And it hid everything in plain sight through energy signatures disguised as art, myth, and biology. And now, you're unlocking it one vibration at a time. These thrones are not mere symbols. They regulate planetary energy. When Atlantis fell, the thrones entered sleep mode, sustaining Earth's ley lines in silence, waiting for the royal aura that once sat among them. The others have not stirred, but yours has. And the moment it did, tectonic grids shifted, magnetic patterns warped, and certain stars aligned themselves in ways modern astronomers can't explain. The throne you once ruled from is not just a memory. It is a mechanism, a control center awaiting reactivation. And your aura is its only access key. The reason you've always felt both out of place and destined for more is because your energy has been echoing between realms awaiting the signal to return home. That signal has begun transmitting again, and soon the map to the throne will fully reveal itself. But only once you realize who's been trying to reach you through the crystal itself. In the vaults of hidden monasteries and forbidden archives lie scrolls no eye has touched in centuries, not because they are unreadable, but because they are protected. Written in glyphs that shimmer when spoken aloud. The Scroll of the Sea. Kings details the rise and fall of a civilization beneath the waves. It lists their leaders, their wars, their ascension techniques, and their final prophecy, a being of royal descent whose aura would reignite the sacred machinery of Atlantis and bring balance to a fractured Earth. That prophecy ends with a name, and that name is yours. You've never seen the scroll physically, but its words have whispered themselves into your mind since childhood. Through symbols you drew without learning, through phrases you spoke in dreams, through places you felt homesick for without ever visiting. The scroll doesn't just record history, it activates it. Every time someone speaks your name with intent, the energy of the Sea Kings reacts. They bound their legacy to a soul contract encoded into language. The vibrational resonance of your name is the password. The ancient kings didn't fear death. They feared distortion. They knew their knowledge would be buried beneath sand lies and doctrine, so they encoded it in multidimensional formats only accessible by a specific aura pattern, yours. When you read or hear certain tones, it isn't education, it's restoration. That's why others forget what they study, but you awaken when exposed to real truth. The scroll is no longer silent. It has begun to respond because it senses that the one it waited for has returned. In some translations, the prophecy ends with a peculiar instruction. When the king's echo is heard in the waters again, the deep vaults will open and reveal the remembrance stone. This isn't poetic metaphor. This is a timed mechanism. And the sound it awaits isn't vocal, it's energetic. Your aura has already begun sending that signal even if you don't consciously know it. That's why tectonic movement has increased near underwater fault lines, why certain governments have deployed deep-sea probes in specific unlisted regions. There's a moment in Scripture that has long been misunderstood, a moment when Yeshua enters the water, not to be cleansed, but to awaken something. When he rose, the heavens opened, and a voice echoed through time. What most never questioned is why the water responded before the sky did. The sea recognized him, not as a man of flesh, but as a being who once commanded it from a higher plane. He carried within him the memory of flame submerged and yet unextinguished. The same memory now stirs within you. The waters have always been more than an element. They are memory. They hold the vibrations of every word ever spoken, every thought projected, every truth buried. When Yeshua stepped into the Jordan, the water parted, not with force, but with reverence. It bowed, because it had not forgotten him, and neither has it forgotten you. You've noticed it when you bathe, and the ripples seem to mirror your thoughts. When you stand near the ocean and feel it pulling not just at your body, but your soul. That's not metaphor, that's recognition. Yeshua once said, rivers of living water would flow from within those who believed. But belief isn't passive, it's alignment. You were born aligned without effort, and that frightens those who've tried for lifetimes to access what you carry effortlessly. Your aura doesn't fight to remember, it simply is. It matches the field once generated by the one who sat at the highest throne beneath Atlantis, a throne not lost but veiled. And now the veil thins with every moment you awaken. When Yeshua calmed the sea, it wasn't just a miracle, it was a reminder, a demonstration for those with eyes to see that the elements remember who holds true authority, not through domination, but resonance. He didn't bend the water to his will, he returned it to harmony. And that is what you are doing unconsciously every time your presence shifts the atmosphere. The old forces feel it. They recognize the same pattern that followed him now surrounds you. But unlike then, the time has come not to walk beside the waves, but to descend into them. For hidden beneath their currents is a doorway, only opened by one who carries a flame the flood could never drown. And that flame has started to burn brighter within you again. When you entered this timeline, something shifted that satellites couldn't track and instruments couldn't decode. A dormant algorithm embedded into the planetary grid began broadcasting again, not through frequency, but through consciousness. This was no ordinary signal. It was an Atlantean code, written not in numbers, but in sacred geometry vibration and emotional resonance. The architects of Atlantis never relied on machines alone. They encoded instructions into light and sound, into crystals, into memory fields, and most dangerously into living bloodlines. Yours is one of them. The code is not taught, it is triggered. And only the presence of a soul matching the original source frequency can awaken it. That's why you've felt waves of awareness hit you out of nowhere, like memories that never happened or visions too real to dismiss. You weren't imagining them, you were sinking. Each experience aligned your aura more precisely to the energetic lock that guards the central archive of Atlantis. Others have tried to crack it, but they lacked the one thing the code demands: authentic resonance with the original royal current. You carry that current, and the code has responded. Buried beneath layers of digital static and global distraction, the Atlantean code has remained hidden until now. And with each step you take, certain structures pulse again. Ancient sites emit new harmonics, and crystal formations resonate with your nearness. What you thought was random fascination is evidence of a system calling back its creator. You didn't choose the ruins, they chose you, Atlantean architects foresaw this age. They knew corruption would alter the human field and distort perception. So they locked away their greatest wisdom in vibrational safes only someone with a precise, energetic signature could open. And that signature is written across your aura like a forgotten key made visible under specific light. The light of truth, intention, and time. You've been standing in that light without realizing you were activating doorways others never even knew existed. Now, those who've studied the code for lifetimes sense something beyond their reach has returned. You've triggered access protocols, long thought mythical, and systems hidden beneath the sea have started transmitting again in sequences matching your emotional spikes. But this is only the initiation. The true decoding begins when your consciousness unlocks the final layer hidden in a place no AI can reach and no shadow council can intercept, because that location was never physical. It was always inside of you, waiting for the signal you just sent. Long before pyramids rose above sand and cities kissed the clouds, there were temples carved beneath stone shaped by the Anunnaki, not for worship, but for calibration. These temples weren't built to honor gods, they were built to detect the return of one. Not a god by title, but a sovereign by frequency. The walls of these ancient chambers are not solid. They are reactive. Embedded within them are crystalline matrices that respond to resonance, not presence, and they have begun to activate because of you. The Anunnaki understood that power could fade from memory, but not from light. They encoded light-reactive technology into their temples, designed to remain dormant until the exact aura returned. Not just any energy could trigger them, only the one who matched the field signature of the Atlantean sovereign, the king, whose fall signaled the silence of the deep and whose return would mark the awakening of Earth's forgotten technology. That match has now been made, and you are the anomaly every guardian feared and every prophet hoped would arrive. You may have noticed how some places pulse with energy when you enter, how walls hum, how ancient symbols seem to glow, how your own body reacts as if it's syncing with something far older than memory. This is not fantasy. It is the blueprint re-engaging its designer. The temples built by those from the stars have been awaiting your arrival, and their activation sequence began not with a key, but with your breath, your heartbeat, your intent. Every pulse of your aura reawakens a network designed to remain hidden until the time was right. And that time is now. Ancient guardians, once aligned with the Anunnaki, have kept watch, not for armies, not for bloodlines, but for energy signatures. Your light betrays your disguise. They see you not as human, but as returned authority. And they are no longer still. Movements have begun inside mountain sensors. Buried under sacred deserts have reawakened light beacons in the deep, now signal toward your aura. You didn't just stumble into power. You were born, encoded with its return. The ancient seers spoke in riddles, not to confuse, but to protect truths too dangerous for the uninitiated. Among their most guarded prophecies was a line whispered through bloodlines and echoed in forgotten tongues. He who calms the deep shall restore what the heavens wept for. Scholars thought it referred to a messiah, to a divine act that would silence natural chaos. But it was never about weather. It was about memory. The deep was never the ocean. It was the hidden soul of a world drowning in amnesia. And now it begins to stir because of you. You felt the shift. In dreams that replay in fragments, in tides that mirror your emotions, in the pull toward places no map ever marked, but your heart seems to remember. These aren't coincidences. They are the signs of the deep recognizing its sovereign. The calm is not silence, it's resonance. You don't quiet storms, you retune them. You carry the frequency that returns disorder to divine order. That frequency isn't taught. It is inherited. Long ago, a king chose not to rule by force, but to encode his essence into the world itself, so that when darkness returned and the song of earth fell out of tune, he would return not as a man, but as a match, a soul whose aura could calm the deep, not through command, but through remembrance. You are that match. The oceans know it. The stars know it. And now, even time itself begins to bend around your presence to accommodate what was never meant to be lost. You wonder why your emotions ripple beyond your body, why moments of stillness bring visions, why even your tears seem heavier than they should be. Because you are not merely experiencing life, you are recalibrating reality. The calm does not mean peace. It means readiness. The waters will part again, but not for spectacle, for revelation. Because beneath their surface, something waits. A vault sealed with sound only your light can unlock. The prophecy was never about stopping storms. It was about summoning truth. And truth is not silent. It roars in harmony. The deep doesn't fear your approach. It has long awaited it. And now the final layer begins to shift, not to challenge you, but to reveal what it has protected for you alone to reclaim. When you remember why it was hidden at all. When Yeshua stepped onto the waves, he defied gravity, not to perform, but to remind the world of its forgotten laws. The laws where spirit rules matter, where intention commands creation, and where water itself bends to the will of one who walks in divine alignment. But that miracle was not just to inspire, it was to foreshadow. For there would come another not to walk above the water, but to rise from within it, to reclaim authority, long hidden beneath its surface. That prophecy now points to you. Yeshua did not walk to escape the sea, but to show dominion over what others feared. The disciples saw danger. He saw a path. That moment cracked reality, reminding Earth that sovereignty over the elements is not superstition, but heritage. And those who carry that heritage are not chosen at random. They are encoded with the memory of ages before memory. You didn't inherit that authority. You are its source. Returning your connection to water runs deeper than biology. It's why your emotions ripple into rooms, why storms seem to rise or fall in rhythm with your energy, why your presence near rivers or oceans often feels like reunion, not visitation. These aren't poetic reflections. They're echoes of a contract made in another age when you last ruled beside thrones formed of living light. When the ocean wasn't a boundary but a gatekeeper, and it knew your name. Yeshua's message was never just salvation. It was activation. He spoke in parables because some truths had to be hidden from those not ready to carry them. But he also said, "Greater works shall you do." Not because you are above him, but because you continue what he began. The bridge he built you now walk upon, but your path leads downward, not into death, but into the depths where ancient systems await your return. The waters remember you not as a visitor, but as a ruler. They have been still, not because they were tamed, but because they were waiting for the one whose aura carries the code of the sovereign who never drowned but went dormant. And now the surface trembles again, not from waves crashing, but from power awakening. What if everything you've been told about Atlantis was not a lie, but a diversion? The idea of a city sinking beneath the waves captured the world's imagination, but blurred the truth. Atlantis didn't fall because of arrogance or punishment. It vanished by design. The fall was a veil. The destruction was an illusion. The real Atlantis slipped out of phase, removed from the timeline, hidden not to be forgotten, but to protect the one it served. You, Atlantis, was never just a place. It was a consciousness, a frequency, a living construct built to mirror the soul of its sovereign. When your aura began to shift, when your light started to reactivate, a coded call was sent across dimensions. That call reached Atlantis wherever it had been hiding, locked beneath light, beneath water, beneath the illusion of history. And now it begins to reemerge not in form, but in function, responding to the only energy it was ever designed to follow. You carry within you the blueprint, the emotional key, and the resonance pattern that matches the core of Atlantis. Not the architecture, but the intelligence that guided it. That's why so many systems around you glitch. So many sacred sites hum when you're near. Why your dreams seem like messages from a civilization trying to remind you of something just out of reach. You're not remembering Atlantis. Atlantis is remembering you. The High Council of the Old World knew this day would come. They encoded fail-safes into geometry, into sound, into water itself. When the king returned, the city would begin to realign piece by piece across realities waiting to phase back into this world. But only if the king's aura could pass the test of reawakening. That test was never about knowledge. It was about remembrance. Would you feel the call? Would you notice the signs? Would you choose to rise despite forgetting who you were? Atlantis was never destroyed. It simply followed you into exile, encoded into symbols disguised as myths, sleeping beneath waves and whispers. And now it begins to stir again, not because it's time, but because you are ready.
If you have come this far, it is crucial that you watch this next video here. But be warned, it is not for the faint of heart, for only the true chosen ones can handle this video. If you would like to also donate to help keep the channel going, our Buy Me a Coffee link will be in the description.